Time now to update the Raccoon deck. This is the build that I took to my locals, got top 8 with. I have made some modifications since the Saturday local. I will try to point them out if I can remember them. But if I can't pluck them all out, then just blame my foggy memory of the situation. So let's just rip straight into it. So to start the list, we've obviously got the triple Pond Poco and the triple Tantan. Another lesson that I've learned. I usually learn lessons at every local that I go to. The lesson I learned yesterday was that Change's appearance is a bitch, because I ended up losing, because I sided one of each of these out, and I ended up getting 2 of these out through Chain Disc, and then just losing them all, which really, really hurt, because this is basically, this makes the deck what it is. I mean, aside from the obvious Obedience Schooled, this is what makes Raccoons what they are, because they are the Raccoons. So that's a thing. Then we have Kalatosa bumped back up to 2. I had this for Saturday as well. I initially planned on siding one of these and then bringing it in just in case, but I basically opted to take another crack with 2 in the main. But most of the time I would end up, but just about most of the duels I'd play, I'd end up drawing into 1, which was terrible. So I'm probably going to cut back down to 1. The big issue with it though is if I cut down to 1, it's one less card it's one less easy side out. Plus, of course, there were situations where even after siding it out, there were situations where I wish I had the second one still in there. So this is probably the biggest level of debate going forward with the deck as to how many I want to run of those. Wind Up Kitten, I'm actually considering bumping this up to 2 as well, because it worked quite effectively. But my big issue was siding out one of each of the Raccoons, which I found to not be a good idea at all. I need to get more beasts in there so that I have all the targets that I can get for Obedience School and stuff like that, because between the Change Disappearance and drawing into my beasts, I ended up with a dead Obedience School in hand because I only had 2 targets left in the deck. So I was trying to get maybe 1 extra target in the deck, because I think I'd already used my Wind Up Kitten, and so if I had a second one, I'd have that plus 2 more, so I could have at least tried to do some play, although I think by that point I'd already well and truly lost the match, and this was against Scraps. Tree Otter jacks up some power. I might bring in its partner in crime, the Sea Koala, back in, because I had Sea Koala, and it's quite an effective little card as well in its own right. But yeah, this is the jack up card. It was very, very useful at helping me put a lot of damage on board. It puts in a whole lot of work. The only negative is that it is water attribute, so, and I've actually first round, I completely forgot about this. First round, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, I think it might have been. I don't like one of the rounds. I started off. I ended up going into this and completely screwing over my first turn Sunder U Beast play because of the fact that it is water attribute. So kind of got to be aware of that. Then we have the Elephant, the Tuna, makes the first turn Sunder U Beast play sort of thing going like that. 2 Junk Synchron to make the bulk of your level 5s and beyond for the Synchro support. Then Hand Traps, 2 Max C came in handy, and a Swift Scarecrow, which was really, really nice. I like Swift Scarecrow in this deck. I don't think I'm going to be cutting that out anytime soon. I was running a Thunder King for Saturday's build, but I hardly ever saw it, and the one time I did see it, I literally used it more for a beat stick purpose than anything else, and that could have easily been filled up if I'd gone for a Junk Synchron and gone into something like an Armades or a Frozen Fitzgerald. So I didn't think Thunder King was really that necessary. If I was going to go for something to stop searching out of the deck, I would probably just try to get my hands on a couple copies of Mistake and then just use that. But yeah, I just didn't really like Thunder King anymore, so cut that out for us today for yesterday's build. Spells, the very obvious triple Obedience Schooled. Unlike when I won locals, I actually had a bit of a time trying to actually get my hands on one of these after I sided one out. I still think it's not a bad idea to side one out because you don't really need 3 of them anyway. Because you got to cut this. Because if you want to cut this out for something that will actually help you out, like you want to bring in a twister to get rid of friggin' decrees and shit like that. That's obviously, then obviously you should be certain to do that. But you know, it's a thing. It's a thing. 3 MST. I might cut this down to 2. I might side one of these. I'm not too sure about it. I like being able to clear the opponent's back row because this deck can go ape shit if the opponent has no back row. Because I did perform a couple of OTKs across the entirety of the weekend. So 2 S-Rock Sunrise. I was running 3 of these on Saturday. I decided to give it a crack at 2 and wasn't too bad. But I think if I can fit the 3rd one back in, I'll go for it because the 3rd one's really nice. It can clog at 3, mind you, because you can only activate one of these per turn, but they're not really dead that often. They're not really dead often enough for me to have to worry too much about it, so if I can fit a 3rd one back in, I'm going to go for that, because it makes for an easy side out for games 2 and 3. Tried out Main Closed Forests. They weren't overly bad, although I still didn't really see them that often, and I don't really want to run a terraforming to get these in, so I might relegate these back to the side deck. Then Book of Moon Dark Hole. Don't think I need to say much about these guys, so that's those. For the traps, 2 Breakthrough Skill put in a lot of work as well over the course of the weekend. Was really effective. If I was able to, I would probably fit maybe 2 Finishes along with this, just to really make sure I screw over effect users. But for now, the breakthroughs are putting in a considerable amount of work. 2 wiretaps. I had a 7 tools on Saturday, and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna give the double wiretap a shot because I want to try to keep my life point payments to as minimal as possible, because I might actually try another copy, try putting Burst Rebirth back in, since I'm not ever going to use Soul Charge in this deck. I just don't like it. I think S-Rock Sunrise is just infinitely better. So I'm probably going to stick with these for a while. 2D Prison, it's pretty standard, gets around hands. Compulse, Bottomless, Torrential, Warning, they do their shenanigans, and people either jump for joy and get salty. Mained Black Horn of Heaven, because once again, you know, I've only got the 1, so there's not much point in siding it. And random tech time in the form of a Starlight Road, because I was expecting to see because I know one guy runs hieratic ruler stuff like that, and one of his favourite strategies is to completely blow out your back row with a Wing Beat. Not to mention, of course, I played the same Light Sworn player. I played the Light Sworn ruler in the final round in both locals, round 4 on Saturday and round 5 yesterday, and I pretty much had this in there just preparing for a JD drop. It might actually be infinitely better to go for a Huge Revolution is over, aside from the fact that because with Huge Revolution is over, the only thing that can counter it is Wiretap. Instead of, you know, if add something like a Locals, you could well end up going into this and then running into a My Body as a shield, which can screw this over. Not to mention Solemn Warning can screw this as well over as well. I just sort of like this because I get the Stardust, because if this goes through, I get another negation, and if I don't use the second negation of the Stardust, then that means I've got a 25 beat stick that can just head out and shit. Not to mention it's good. It's a good monster to draw attack points off of when generating Sandayu tokens. Speaking of which, starting off the extra deck, we have the triple Sandayu. Yeah, MVP exceeds of the deck. I don't think I need to say too much about this guy. Generates a shit ton of tokens and whatnot. Herald of Pure Light. I actually got this off a couple of times over the weekend, so I'm quite content with its performance. Dagusta Phoenix, I think I only got this off, I believe, once. It put in decent work. Down a Magician, this is one change that I'm definitely making. I'm going to be putting the second one of these in here. As for what's coming out, I'm not actually sure. I might even go and try out the huge revers over and cut the Stardust and put the Downed in, because I hardly ever go into level 8s and don't really see much of a reason as to why I should even run a level 8 in the deck anyway, so it's just a bit weird like that. And to have a second Downed Magician to back the first one up is really effective. I really wish I had it against Scraps yesterday. So, for Synchros, Balmung did not see this at all throughout the entirety of the weekend. I could probably cut this out and not really affect the deck at all. To be perfectly honest, I actually had more of a chance to go into Mistburg Clausulus than I did to go into this. I had maybe one chance to go into this and maybe 2 or 3 chances to go into Clausulus. So I might cut it for a Clausulus, I'm not too sure. Level 5s, Armides puts in the work. Fitzy also puts in the work, although most of the time when I saw Armides, it got bottomless. But when I did actually see it and it didn't get bottomless, I basically just kicked ass with it. Frozen Fitzy, saw it once, it got bottomless. Junk Warrior got this to 5,000 yesterday and smashed up shit. Catasta always puts in work. Nat Beast, you know, first turn under your beast plate is pretty damn deadly. If I could fit Mind Moles back into the deck, then I would probably give that another crack. Although that might actually just be restricted for the purposes of building a fun variant of this. So 6 is Mabakion, didn't see it at all. Black Rose again didn't see it at all, and then the Stardust because Starlight Road is a thing. That's the extra deck done. Now for the side deck, I have Dyna, second Scarecrow, and 2 Electric Viruses. Now I was running a second Dyna, but again I've been a bit iffy about the Dyna, and even then at 1 it was relatively subpar. The only 2 times I ever saw this throughout the entirety of the weekend was I got rid of Largia with it against Evols yesterday, and I used this to beat over Light Swans, but it's only 1200, so it was easy for the Light Swan to get over it. I recycled it, tried to use it, but I just couldn't use it. It was just kind of lackluster. Probably just maybe just my failure to be able to use it, but I'm just a bit iffy about Fossil Dino now, so I'm probably gonna maybe cut this. If I decide to side one of my MSTs, I might cut this for it. But second Swift Scarecrow was effective, plus Electric Virus is really good. I stole a Evolzar Largia with this. The only thing that sucked though was that this was dead against Scraps because they had DNA Surgery on the board, and so everything was fish type. So despite the fact he had, if he hadn't had the DNA Surgery, I'd just dropped this, stolen the Scrap Twin, and then forced out some back row. And if it didn't force any back row out, then I would have just had it blow itself up and then send shit back to the graveyard. So send shit back to the hand. So because I didn't want him to have a 32-beat stick on the board, because he had the 3000 plus the Scrap Factory bonus as well. So that was a thing. System down for Gear, and while I'm on the subject of Gear, this is actually really, really awesome. You can just the Gear there. I cannot talk in the on the subject of the Gear. This is another reason I went for this in the side as well, because I didn't go up against Gear at all, but I basically opted for this in the situation that I could ditch it, steal a Gigant, and then use that Gigant effect to get a Swift Scarecrow to my hand, so that if they do go off the next turn, I would just drop the Swift Scarecrow and prevent myself from losing. And if I had this in the hand, I would severely punish them for it. It's actually quite a nice strategy, but I didn't go up against any Gear over the weekend, so that didn't turn out. So I'm still have to see about some testing with that. Twister, kind of it's one of those cards. You can run at the side, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. But when it does, though, it's actually quite awesome to have. I had this. I actually didn't side this in against Scraps. In retrospect, I really should have, because DNA Surgery is fucking annoying. 2 Forbidden Graveyard. These are coming out, just plain and simply coming out. The problem with the way I played the Raccoons is most of my hand is put onto the board, so I don't have a whole lot of discard stuff for the Forbidden Graveyard. So I'm going to cut these out and probably put the Closed Forest back into the side deck. Then Soul Drain. Saw this. It got bounced by a Scrap Twin, which annoyed me. 2 Light Mirror because it royally screwed over Light Swans. 2 Iron Wall. I actually opened incredibly nuts. I got the first turn Sunday Beast play against Light Swans on Saturday, game 3, and had both of these set. And he literally opened terribly, and then I proceeded to then drop a Junk Warrior on 4,500 with a 45 token. So that completely and utterly just screwed him over. And even if he did have something, like I said, he wouldn't be able to use Dragon. He wouldn't really be able to use Dragon Rules. Like, he could get 1 out because banishing his cost, but it wouldn't have been able to get. It wouldn't really have been able. Excuse me. I wouldn't have been able to get over me because I was building up points with the Closed Forest. So it was a thing. And then Double Needle Ceiling because Double Sunder you against, like, getting your opponent to just commit a shit ton to their board, and then you just have Double Sunder you just drop this. They get completely utterly screwed over, and you have a couple of Sunder yous which just protect themselves. So that's it for the Raccoon deck list. This is gonna be taken down now to donate a couple of pieces to the Mermail deck, which has now officially been completed. Once I get the pieces out of this, I put them in the Mermail deck, and the Mermail deck will officially be complete as I have received my Abyss Tierces in the mail today. Compliments of Darkness L 1989. Massive shout out to him. I actually was just about ready to give up on building Mermails because I'd bought a Mermail deck core off of some guy on eBay, and he didn't come through with the deal, and that was kind of annoying and shit like that, so I had to go and buy all the bits and pieces individually, and he hooked me up with the Abyss Tierces, which was all I really needed to complete the deck. So enormous gratitude to him, and at some point in the future you'll see a Mermail deck list before it is likely to get screwed over by the ban list. Who knows, I could be in the process of uploading this and reading the ban list at the same time, so how's that for weird? Just, I guess that's just what happens in ban list season, I don't know. So that's it. See you for whatever it is that I do next.